Fans, we are back once again with another edition of the Cheap Heat Productions podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, no gimmicks guy, and today we have a fascinating individual that we're going to be profiling his career and his passion. A man who was inspired greatly and brings that same kind of positive messaging of the Ultimate Warrior into his wrestling career and his life in general. He is known as Primal Warpath, and this is Dave Koya. Dave, thanks for being on the show tonight.
Hi, Jack. Thanks so much for having me. Hey, Primal Warriors, how we all doing out there?
Yeah, that's what I want to get into is your message of positivity in this character, and we'll go into that for sure. But can you let the fans know about how what your journey looked like into pro wrestling before the Primal Warpath character? How did you get into the business and that sort of thing?
Absolutely. So I, like many wrestlers, grew up just being a huge fan of the business. It was WWF back then. I think it was 1988. And I was just the biggest fan of Hulk Hogan. And then Ultimate Warrior came around, and it turned out to be a tie between the two when they brought Warrior on the scene. Because for all those years, I was a Hulkamaniac. And then this new guy, the Ultimate Warrior, comes around, and I was just emotionally torn, like, which one do I like better? And at that time, I was about 8 years old. And I think from the time I was 5, and this isn't supposed to bring people down. It's part of the positivity and the never surrender battle cry of mine. From the time I was 5, I was abused. I came from an abusive family and household. And at the time, I looked up to these wrestlers, the WWF superstars of the 80s, like superheroes, like something I could never personally be. But man, did I look up to them, and they brightened my day and gave me something to hope for, that there were heroes out there in the world. So after high school, though, we'll fast forward all the way till then. I graduated at about 19 years old. And after school, I started, school was over. I was working factory jobs and whatnot, keeping a roof over my own head. And I joined gyms and started working out and eating and really trying to pack on some size and muscle. And it wasn't at that time to become a pro wrestler. It was just to strengthen myself because that childhood I had, I was also undersized and had some minor health issues, but I was very, very scrawny, so to speak. At some point, I did start in life fighting back and defending myself. But my workout started at about 19 years old in 1995. And within a few years, my buddies at the gym that worked factories with me and were older than me started saying, "Hey, Dave, you're such a huge wrestling fan, and there's these wrestling schools out there. Why don't you become a wrestler?" I had a bit of dysmorphia, so I was like, maybe when I get a little bigger, pack on a few more pounds. And they're like, "Dude, you're there. So go find a school and chase your dreams."
And which school did you land on for training?
So my training coincided with my career in law enforcement as a corrections officer. So for 25 years, I just recently retired. I was a New York State corrections officer. And I grew up in the suburbs near Buffalo, New York. And they start you on the job, especially back then in the year 2000 down near New York City. So right prior to leaving, I had discovered a wrestling school and some indie shows in the Rochester area. So it was my goal when I started corrections, hey, I got to get on this transfer list and hop jail to jail, until I get to a prison near Rochester. And this one had just opened up in the year 2000. So with being a rookie with not even a year on the job, I was one of the first officers to help open 5 Points prison out on the Finger Lakes. And that landed me right where I needed to be to work midnight shift, work out in the gym during the day, and 2 nights a week I would drive to Rochester and go to this wrestling school. Sorry if I kind of sidestepped the question. It was called Suplex U, and they were affiliated with a independent organization called NMW, New Millennium Wrestling.
What when you first completed your training and you're looking at debuting, etc., did you have the idea to have an Ultimate Warrior like persona, or what? I guess what inspired you to create the Warpath character?
So that's such a great question, because originally I had started off wanting to look like one of the Road Warriors. I absolutely adored them. They were my favorite tag team, still are, of all time. And I wanted to be like them. So I was like, oh, I'm going to wear scary face paint and the spikes. And I was also inspired by that look and lifestyle. Scary eye makeup of Alice Cooper really inspired me too, and all kind of combined to help me form my original first look is Primal Warpath, which again looked really similar to the Road Warriors. And at the time too, they were doing independent work as well as like in Japan, but it was my dream. Like, oh man, if I could get on an indie show and we could do like 6-man tags, that would be a dream come true. Now, it came close to happening. It's another story, but it never did come to fruition. Part of it was with Road Warrior Hawk passing away. And then things just went a different way from there. Well, at the time though, I'm doing the Road Warrior type look on shows near the Adirondacks in New York. I was with a company called World of Hurt Wrestling, and we would do shows literally every Friday between Schenectady and Hudson Falls, which is a town right next door to where Hacksaw Jim Duggan grew up, Glens Falls. So that area was a hotbed for wrestling indie shows back then, and World of Hurt, that was their territory. So I'm with World of Hurt, and I'm doing the Road Warrior thing. Not using the name or anything, just that look though of a scarier type face paint. I had really short hair at the time because of my job in corrections, black leather pants and spikes, like a spiked dog collar and spiked armbands. Well, one of my buddies that was my arch enemy on the shows, but he was also my road buddy, Steve. We were having a lot of matches against each other, like a program. And one time I nicked him with one of my spiked armbands. So I'm like, oh, dude, I ought to start taking these off, when I wrestle, because I don't want to hurt anybody with these spiked armbands. It was rare, because I threw safe clotheslines, etc. But I just didn't want something like that happening. So the promoter, Dave Danger, I approached and said, hey, man, I've got an idea. I don't want to hurt anybody with these spiked armbands when I'm doing clotheslines and stuff. What if I switch it up and kind of like Ultimate Warrior, I tie red and black armbands around my arms? And Dave says to me, he goes, dang, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. At the time they were using me as a heel, and he said I was so over as a heel, getting cheered and stuff because of the intensity and just wilding out in the ring the way that I would. And I shook the ropes too, but again, looking like one of the Road Warriors. It was just an intensity thing to do, and I always loved the Ultimate Warrior, but I at the time wasn't trying to be like him. I was just like, oh, I'll look like the Road Warriors and I'll shake the ropes like the Ultimate Warrior. And I had a backstory where I came from a grave like the Undertaker. I was combining elements of some of my favorite childhood characters to become one being. So anyways, he says, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. He goes, what would you think of doing a full-on Ultimate Warrior tribute? And he goes, I mean, all new gear, order the neon different colored trunks, go with the neon colored armbands. Let's see where we could go with this. So I said, dude, that would be a dream come true. I'd love to do it. It sounds like a lot of fun. And I said, what if the fans don't like it though? What if I'm considered a ripoff? What if, they don't like it, He goes, well, the beautiful thing is you're starting as a heel. We'll do this to turn you face. If they don't like it, pretty much immediately, we could just turn you back to a heel. So when I debuted the Ultimate Warrior-esque character, and again, I still had really short hair, like a shaved head, high and tight. I debuted the new character in the same night I had still wrestled as the Dark Warpath with the Road Warrior look. So I did a match earlier in the night against a babyface, and it was a squash. I had a manager, this guy, Kenny Casanova, was portraying Kim Chi that night because Warpath was barely speaking and so wild. I think there was even times when Kim Chi Kenny would bring me out on a chain and whatnot, and I'd break free and race to the ring and just destroy my opponent. So anyways, this particular night, I finished my opponent quick. I go for the pin, and Kim Chi keeps hitting me with a cane. And he says, no, punish him more. So eventually I get tired of him hitting me with this cane. I get distracted by Kim Chi, Kenny, rolled up in a schoolboy by this other rookie. 1, 2, 3, the referee shoving him out of the ring. He's like, get out of here, he's going to kill you. So then Kim Chi gets in the ring, and he's pointing his finger in my chest, and I think he took a swing at me. I dropped him, and the crowd went berserk. So I go back through the curtain. I believe it was the opening match, so that we had time throughout the show to set up the main event where I would debut the colorful warrior-like character. So we had a Terry Funk type babyface that was the champion out there named Texas Outlaw. Great dude. And he was actually I was his rival. Like when I entered World of Hurt, like I started my debut there by attacking with a chair when he was defending the title. And I was a rookie. I was brand new, but that's how they brought me in and entered the ring with the seat in the picture behind me. And, Warrior.
Oh, I think we've lost Primal Warpath. Let me try and adjust the situation here. He's frozen. Let me see. You're back.
Okay, back from the dead one more time. Reincarnated.
That's very much like your original character, back from the dead. You were saying you were facing a Terry Funk like character, and then we kind of got all robotic, etc.
Oh, sure, yeah. So I was facing Texas Outlaw, and did it still pick up the part where I turned face later that night?
No. I think we lost that in translation.
Okay. Did we get the part with Kim Chi?
Yes. And you.
Okay. So later, I laid him out, and later that night, I believe I was opening match, so we'd have the rest of the show to build the anticipation for this. Well, I mean, really, it was a surprise. No one knew that it was happening, but the show goes on. And in the main event, Texas Outlaw is being outnumbered. He's the Terry Funk type gimmick. Great dude. And originally we had been rivals. I had made my debut in World of Hurt by attacking him with a chair. And then we had matches against each other, etc. So this particular night, after I laid Kim Chi out, he's being outnumbered in the ring in the main event while defending his heavyweight title. And boom, here I come in neon green trunks. Again, I still had the short, high and tight haircut, but colorful armbands, looking as much attire-wise as Ultimate Warrior as I could, but I figured it gave some originality with my super short hair at the time. Mm-hmm. So that got over huge with the fans and the promoter. Everybody loved it. They started tagging me with Texas Outlaw as his new ally and best friend, and we just rode that till the wheels fell off. And it was such a fun ride.
Yeah, that's a great origin story. And here's a shot of your look with longer hair, very, very much, reminiscent of the Warrior. I wanted to ask you about this. This is a question that first comes to mind when I want to say wrestlers are inspired by other wrestlers, legends. And I mean, there's nothing wrong about that. That's something that's been going on in wrestling forever. We borrow from the past and then update it, make it our own. But was it a consideration for you, being such a fan of the warrior to present the Primal Warpath character in such a way that pays homage to the warrior, and how do you do that? And I'll talk in a bit about all the time that you pay with the fans, especially the kids.
So yeah, I definitely wanted it to pay homage to him. I didn't want it to be a mockery. I didn't want it to be disrespectful in any way, and I didn't want to copy him. So when the Warrior, especially with Hulk Hogan going into their WrestleMania title match, spoke of the spaceship crashing and all the Warriors and Hulkamaniacs that were left, that were on the ship, when Warrior was telling Hogan in that famous promo, pull the controls back, put that spaceship into a nosedive. Essentially, Primal Warpath, which it took me years to complete putting the story together. Primal Warpath is just like all the wrestling fans out there, just like all the Warriors, just like all the Hulkamaniacs. In fact, he was an orphan, left with Warrior-esque powers, had an immortality that he walked through the flames and survived because he had this mission to inspire others and be a role model himself. And the funny thing is, too, with the look, when I first did the look, again, with the neon colors, I had super short hair and no facial hair. And my attire was very, very much like Ultimate Warriors, as close as I could get it, again, to pay homage. As the years went on, though, I did the opposite. I grew my hair longer and then started to grow facial hair, too. So, when I very first did it, almost bald, short hair, no facial hair. Then, hey, let's grow the hair out, but let's grow a beard, too. Just to be my own kind of warrior. And then I've done videos and whatnot you can see on YouTube, too, that explains the origin of the character, especially through the evolution of the character, where I explain the armbands, too. So Ultimate Warrior had his own purpose for his armbands. Mine, although I've done different colors throughout the years, for the past several years, maybe even 10, of my 25 years in this, have been red, white, and blue. And just like what the Statue of Liberty in America stands for, I say that my armbands represent all of the primal warriors and people out there that believe in me, and I believe in you. But these colors, again, being red, white, and blue, are for all of us. Every race, every orientation, every person can believe in Primal Warpath, and he'll be there for you, and you're there for me. It's reciprocal.
Yeah, I also noticed in doing some research for our interview that your promos are very reminiscent of the Warrior in terms of that graphic imagery and that intensity. How do you channel the Warrior's approach there, or spirit into those promos? Do you find that challenging? Because clearly Warrior, as you said, never did the standard I'm going to kick your teeth in and we got a problem type of thing. He was very often criticized for his what are now considered to be trend-setting original promos. Did you find that difficult when you first started doing promos as the Primal Warpath?
Actually, I found it really easy, and there's some reasons for that. And I'll go back to the childhood thing. The way I was growing up, again, even though I never dreamt I'd be big enough or muscular enough or whatever to become a pro wrestler, I still looked up to Ultimate Warrior so much that when I was a scrawny little kid, again, growing up in an abusive household, going to school, getting bullied, etc., I would imagine Ultimate Warrior's music playing when my alarm clock would go off for school, and laying in my bed, this little scrawny kid, I'd literally shake my fist, as I rose up from the sheets, and I'd be pumping my fist, and then I'd start shaking, and then rise up and pound my chest and be like, okay, let's attack this day. So I think, that shows that despite my circumstances of what my present was, that there was something in me that wanted more for my future and wanted to crawl out of that. And that bled into also really admiring Ultimate Warrior and his work and his promos, where other people may have said it was nonsense and gibberish he was speaking. I like a lot of other fans, you can decipher it and almost translate it into real messages and words of what he was getting across, of what he was going to do to his opponents and not fearing the darkness, etc. He just had a very, very unique and original and entertaining way of putting that. If some people, want to look down on that, they can. But if you care and you love it, or you even just give it a chance, you can also translate it into some real messages. So I said, again, wanting to be like Warrior, but I said, okay, but really say something. There's a message in there. Say things, And there's like my character had started, even in the dark look, there was a supernatural aspect of being immortal and multiple times returning from the dead to help people and be there for people. So I took those philosophies and just applied them into the words that I was saying of, again, what I would do in the ring. So, in a way, this is how Warrior did it. This is what he was saying. Well, this is what I'm saying, and this is how I'm going to do it. So similar, but add differences in there. Mm-hmm. And again, I liked it when I came up with it. It was maybe within the past 10 years. It was like in my own mind and creativity and imagination, like a new evolution to the Primal Warpath character, like a new layer. I'm like, wait a minute, I came from the rocket ship crash. I'm a survivor of that, because like all these fans, I'm just a little warrior too. I'm just the chosen one that, survived the flames and marched forward to lead everybody now.
Excellent. You of course encountered a number of folks being an indie standout in the Northeast that actually, worked with Warrior, were familiar with his work. Here you are with Brutus, the Barber Beefcake, who no doubt shared a locker room with him. And when I noticed this, I got interested. Jay Lethal, of course, who does one heck of a Macho Man tribute. What's your when you first meet guys that either worked with him or were influenced by the Warrior, what kind of response do you generally get? Especially, I'd be interested in what Beefcake had to say. That was about 2011, 2012?
Yeah, right on the money. And that's not only a great question, like that downplays what an awesome question that is, because there's some of the most hilarious stories from my career too. And it's the way that these WWE legends and Hall of Famers literally had reacted to me up close and in person, at these indie shows and smaller venues like the Main Street Armory in Rochester, where they had HBO boxing from in the past and whatnot. And even other venues like high school gymnasiums, fire halls, etc. That's your home on the indies. Proudly so. So to meet these guys in that kind of atmosphere, for me was so inspiring. And I was kind of like in awe, like, man, these are some guys that, again, during those rough years of my childhood or teens, I watched on TV and they were my heroes. And now here we are. And I respectively say as peers, because we're both bumping in that ring that night in front of the same audience. And I was so grateful for that, blessed and proud of it all at the same time. But some of the funniest reactions, like you showed the picture of Beefcake. I'll never forget that. It was at a fire hall and we're in the dressing room and, all the other workers and whatnot are talking to him and whatever. So I just bide my time. When he wasn't busy, I approached him and I was like, excuse me, sir, do you mind if we get a picture? Now, this is what makes it so funny is I don't know if he had, him and Hogan had heat with Warrior in real life at that time. That could have been when those podcast battles were going on back and forth. When Warrior himself was in a really dark place in his life, and it's in some ways justifiably so, but he did also say some awful things that I'm sure he regretted. But either way, he was shooting pretty hard, saying some really mean things. So Beefcake at that time was really close with Hogan as well. while Warrior is going to war on him via social media or the internet. So here I am looking like I look, paying tribute to the Warrior and wanting to be the next Warrior, Primal Warpath. And I said, "Excuse me, sir, could I please get a picture with you?" And he looks me up and down and he goes, "No." And he turned his back to me. And I'm like, oh, he's pissed. And is it because of, is it his opinion I'm copying the look, or does he hate Warrior so badly right now for what's going on social media that anybody that follows or likes Warrior too, can go fly a kite in his book? So he laughed, turned around, and then took the picture with me. And we were buddies, not just for that night, but anytime I saw him at other shows too, backstage, he always had this smirk and almost like a wink and a nod. And it was always a pleasure to see him. Always super cool with each other, even though it was only a few times that I had seen him. Another one that's one of my ultimate favorite stories was the Nasty Boys. That's the one that was at the Main Street Armory in Rochester. I knew they were on the show and I was really looking forward to meeting them. Didn't know when it would happen, but it's pre-show. I mean, you're there hours and hours before the show starts. And that building is set up like catacombs because it's literally a military armory, where it was rumored that in the basement or lower depths, they had tanks and stuff like that stored. And the ground floor, though, looked like any arena, where you'd have a wrestling show or boxing matches, etc. But we're in the bowels of it, going up and down staircases and through these catacomb-like doors. So I go to pass through a door at the same time the Nasty Boys are coming at me through a door. And it's, Knobs and Segs. And I think Segs taps Knobs on the shoulder. And they both do that. Like they can't breathe. They're going to laugh so hard. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And this is my absolute first time meeting them in person. And Segs is slapping Knobs on the shoulder. And I don't remember who said it first, but they were on the same page. And they're like, "It's Warrior off the gas. It's Warrior off the gas." And they're almost in tears, like nose to nose with me in this doorway, just laughing hysterically. And I don't remember which one said it because they're just both such a pair. And any shows I've been on with them, I've always enjoyed talking to or just hanging out with both of them so much. But they're like, "It's like your native name. It's Warrior off the gas." And they coined that to me. And then it was a cool moment too. Later on after that show, I was one of the last guys out of the venue, helping load the ring into the truck and whatnot. So the sports bar that we were having our after party at, when I arrived, and I've always been a huge eater, ever since I got big. I've built myself on is, eating these high protein meals every 2 to 3 hours religiously. And I have dysmorphia. I fear if I ever miss a meal, oh my God, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. So here I am starving from doing the whole show that day, doing ring crew afterwards. I get to the sports bar and the kitchen's closed. So I sit down with the Nasty Boys and a few other workers anyway. And they're like, "What are you going to order?" I'm like, "Oh, the kitchen's closed. I got to wait till we get out of here. I'll find something on the road to eat." So they both start handing me their leftovers on their plates. And it was foods that I love too. Polish food like pierogies and sausage and who knows what else. But I was so hungry. I didn't think twice about it. I just started crushing all this food. And honestly, I was so grateful too, So they're cheering me on too. Like from across the table, they're like, "Eat, Warrior, eat, Warrior, eat." That's and again, it was just so jovial. They were such fun, loving, happy, joking type guys. So anytime I would talk to them on the phone, even if we hadn't been on a show together in a long time, I would occasionally get a phone call from Jerry Segs. And it was funny because I was working at a prison at the time, again, as part of my parallel career, in corrections. But I remember a couple times it literally made my day and made my life. I'd get a call from Segs, like when I'm in the parking lot of my prison, like leaving work, and he'd be like, "Hey, Warrior, what's up, bro?" Or Warpath, it was all in respect, to Ultimate Warrior. But he goes, "I'm looking for some bookings in the Buffalo area, if any shows coming up or this or that." But he'd also say, like, "How was your day?" And I wouldn't go into much detail, but I'd be like, either that day was real chill, because that's what the life of a corrections officer is like. You could have hours and hours and weeks of just sitting and watching and you're on edge, like something's going to happen, but it doesn't. And then out of nowhere, and I can't say you're not expecting it because you're always expecting it. You're always on, but all hell will break loose. But it meant so much to me that he would ask that. And then there were times, you know, in the past few years, I have seen him and Knobs at shows, and they're, to me, just two of the sweetest guys I've met that are that famous and have really been there and done the things that they've done. I really love both of those guys.
That's awesome.
And then,
sorry,
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. The whole internet timing thing. But I saved the best for last. My all-time favorite is Tatanka, because we just really bonded in a way I would have never predicted. When I was running my company, my independent company, MFW, Maximum Force Wrestling, at some point I got the notion to book Tatanka for shows. And I'm like, man, this is going to be so awesome. I was a huge fan of his. Again, around those same years, I was in about 11th grade of high school. And I would go to the Niagara Falls Convention Center to watch WWF when they came to town. And the guys on the card were like Undertaker, Tatanka, the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom, the Nasty Boys. So I really just admired and marked so hard for these guys. So I don't remember how I realized, around 2011 or 12 that it was possible, but I'm like, man, I could get Tatanka for a show. And what meant a lot to me was no shame in sounding like a mark, because we all are. We love this business and the people in it. So I was like, man, as a kid, I would have loved to have seen the Ultimate Warrior tag up with Tatanka, because they were two of my favorites. And with my Primal Warpath character, who's warrior-esque, I can tag with Tatanka, and we'll see what the fans think, if they like it and if they're as excited about this idea as I am. So one thing leads to another, and he's not only on the show, but he comes to our house for dinner afterwards. I'm showing him my huge wrestling collection of figures and rings and Marvel superhero statues of the Incredible Hulk and, Marvel Legends figures. And he was so interested in everything and just so humble and down to earth that I had him back for many more shows too. And it was a blast to tag team with him. We ended up holding the tag team titles together for a short time. That was a dream come true, just to have this photograph I have of each of us holding a belt up over our head, next to each other. And all the shows he was on with me were for charity. Some were at like a middle school for a student that had cancer. Others were at a school that my late sister, who passed away at a very young age, she was younger than me and passed away at 32 years old. I would do an annual show, which was like MFW's WrestleMania at the school she taught at. And Tatanka was there for many of those as well. It was just a blast. Like anytime he and I were able to get together was awesome for shows, awesome for the fans, awesome for us. And I'm so grateful he and I still stay in touch too, even if it's a few times a year, just texting each other Happy Father's Day or some kind of accomplishment. Like it could be as simple like, hey, we got a new dog, or man, his sons are killing it in mat wrestling. Again, they were little kids when he was on shows with me out in my area. I remember giving him an Incredible Hulk action figure for his son, because he said his son was a huge Hulk fan as we're looking through my collection. And I just reached into my stash and gave him a brand new Hulk figure that I hadn't opened yet. I'm like, here, give this to your son then. Now his son is a Hulk.
Time flies. Hey, that's awesome. In terms of, you mentioned how you were well received by some of the boys and folks in the business generally that were fans of the Warrior. There, you touched on earlier, there was a time when Warrior was a very polarizing. He came across as bitter individual when he was doing those videos and burying everyone in their dog. But he also said some pretty, I guess, off color things, to say the least, at the time. Did you ever encounter anyone that did not like him, either because of the political stuff and the other stuff he was saying, or I'm thinking of that WWF DVD, The Self-Destruction, The Ultimate Warrior, when all those talents went on and just slammed him as not a very nice person, selfish. Now, I've interviewed a lot of people that say the opposite, that he was great to work with, but there was that DVD that kind of put it out there that he was a difficult person in the ring, backstage, etc. Did you ever get any negative feedback to your persona?
In person, no. On social media, there's always going to be your keyboard warriors, and there would be comments like, warrior sucked, and so do you. And you just, like any entertainer, take that with a grain of salt. And I would also use it as motivation to just try to better myself and continue to evolve myself. As far as, again, I mentioned it a little earlier too. He did say some off-color things. And as much as I admired him, there was a lot that I didn't agree with myself and didn't want to be like. And again, it helped me though, because those were the moments that I said, hey, I'm really going to add some more layers to my character to stand out from that stigma. And again, not that I'd completely written him off, but hey, man, if he stumbled and made a couple mistakes and said some things that he probably regretted himself, how can Primal Warpath be different than that? So that's especially where I came up with the story behind my armbands, that this is what these armbands stand for. As long as you don't go out and maliciously hurt people like women or children, and I think you know what kind of people I'm talking about. As long as you're not one of them, these armbands stand for everybody, every race, every creed, every belief. It doesn't matter, or it does matter what religion you are. You could believe in this, that, and the other. Hey, I'm here for you. I represent you through these red, white, and blue colors, because America is a place for everybody. Different orientations, beliefs, etc. As long as you're good and you want to believe in me, I'll represent you. I'll stand up for you.
Yeah, very, very positive messaging. A fan sent me a question that might be difficult for you to answer. They wanted to know what your favorite match or Ultimate Warrior moment was, and how did that influence your approach to wrestling as Primal Warpath?
There was so many, because I really loved his character and the stories for years. So there's so much he did that I loved. Just his debut, of the intensity of the way he would run to the ring and shake the ropes, that was difficult to say, man, I want to be like that, but how do I make it my own? So if people want to call that ripping it off, they're not wrong. But I do it with respect and as a tribute. And I've heard people mention about other people that pay homage to Warrior 2, or if they just blatantly rip him off of not being in shape or whatever. I've always worked so hard in the gym for my own personal life, but also to give the fans and my peers like to earn the respect of, like, look, man, I really work hard in the gym, despite the long hours at my job and whatnot. So I've really tried to fit the bill too. And there's times that my fitness level, has gone up and down a bit, but I've always been in the gym. I've had a lot of injuries to work through, from my career in corrections, from torn pectoral muscles to blown out knees to a very badly injured back, shoulders. I mean, just like, the WWE superstars and all the big name companies that are out there busting their ass every single week, on TV wrestling, even though I would only wrestle a couple times a month on weekend indie shows, every day, could give that kind of environment for us. And that's concrete and steel that we're fighting other human beings in unarmed hand-to-hand combat, inside the prisons. And that's not a gimmick. That's my reason of, hey, if I don't look so hot in some videos or pictures during certain years, I was probably dealing with a lot of real life injuries. And then I got back in as good of shape as I could to really do this character justice. But back to some of my favorite Warrior moments and matches. Anything he did upon his debut, of just debuting with that sprint to the ring, his music would hit and he'd shake the ropes. There's nobody that didn't jump out of their seat reacting to that. It was just so unique. I loved the Papa Shango storyline. I don't know if other people call it that too, but I call it the curse of Papa Shango, because he put that curse on him where the black ooze drained down, and then he puked up what looked like pancake batter. That was great. Winning the pea soup. Little nod to the Exorcist movie there. When he won the title from Hogan, I didn't even know who to cheer for in that match. I was so torn. But when he got it, I'm like, okay, I'm all the way in with this Warrior guy. I studied so many, even on VHS tapes, of hours and hours and hours of footage to watch how he would, when he before he shook the ropes, he would do like a tornado type spinning across the ring apron sometimes, and then get in and shake the ropes, or just the way he'd do certain moves like punches or the face buster where he dropped to his knees and stuff like that. And the storytelling, like what's the pace and cadence of this match? Like, he's so powerful and unbeatable, but he has to show vulnerability. So how do you sell for your opponent and take a good beating so that the fans want to see you crawl to the ropes and they're the ones cheering you on to power up and come back and save the day? So I studied a lot of that. So I love that. And some people aren't a fan of it, but I personally thought that his promo with Hogan in WCW when Warrior debuted, and he called Hogan out for turning bad and, making the choices he's made. I think that promo was brilliant myself.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, it's not funny. It's interesting that you mentioned Warrior beating Hogan in the Sky Dome in 1990, because I was there as a teenager. And that was to this day, and I've seen a lot of matches live. That's still very, very, very special. The roof literally blew off the place, and I'm not sure the video fully captures that, but they had something really special with Warrior there. That was classic storytelling, great arc, and man, it's pretty hard that match still stands up today, in my opinion.
I could only imagine what it would have been like to be there live. Watching on TV, I couldn't believe it that all his face paint was melted off. He sweated all the face paint off, and you're like, oh wow, that's what he really looks like underneath the paint. There were so many little details like that just made it so special. They're even emulating that in action figures of him now, where he'll come with multiple head sculpts in the playset, where he's got his face paint on the base figure, and he comes with multiple heads with different degrees of the face paint worn off or different facial expressions.
That's tremendous. One of the major, long-lasting memories of the Warrior is how he really connected deeply with fans, especially kids. And I noticed on your socials, you've got a number of pictures where you're meeting the young fans. They all look so happy. Do you find that even a youngster like that never saw the Warrior perhaps live in his heyday or something, obviously, do you find that the kids especially really flock to you at these events?
Boy, do they. And that's the whole reason I do this. I love the Warrior so much, and he meant so much to me as a kid growing up under the circumstances, like I said, that I did, of somebody to look up to, even when I thought I could never be like him or Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean? I was just a skinny, scrawny kid, but he gave me somebody to believe in and look up to, that could be your hero in your own imagination. So I was like, I want to be that for kids someday too. And also, I almost forgot to bring this up. When I started doing the Primal Warpath character and wearing face paint and all of that, was again back in 2000. And by that point in time in wrestling history, it was believed that the Warrior would never step into a ring or wrestle again. And not only did I admire him so much and dig his character so much, I was like, man, all these fans, as I'm starting out in this business, deserve to have a character like that to get excited about and cheer for. I want to be that guy. And as you pointed out, and I'm so grateful that you showed one of those pictures, there's so many moments like that I've had where I could be that for kids. And I've gotten the best compliments from people that just made me feel like a good human being and feel so good spiritually. It was back in like maybe 2004, but there was a grown man, probably in his 30s or 40s. And he's like, thank you for doing this. This is so cool. He goes, I loved Ultimate Warrior, and to see a character like this again on a show is great. But all these little kids that never got to see Ultimate Warrior, they get to see you. And then a mom one time told me how my black and white photo that I gave her child was hanging between Stone Cold and The Rock on his bedroom wall. And I was like, wow, I love what I do, but we're here in a VFW in front of, 100, 200 people. But this kid has my picture right up there with Stone Cold and The Rock on his bedroom wall. It really meant a lot to me. I got very emotional over that. And it inspired me to keep evolving this character and keep being this character.
Yeah, that's kind of leads into what I wanted to ask you about next. And that's, we all remember when, just how powerful it was when Warrior was welcomed back into the WWE fold. He got the Hall of Fame induction, and then came out with that really almost chilling in hindsight speech, his promo on Raw, and then the next day he's gone, too young. And it really shocked a lot of people because he was this indestructible character, and people thought he'd be around for a very long time. But two-part question: how did you react when he passed? First of all, got the finally in the Hall of Fame, then he passed unexpectedly, and did that mark a point where you decided to? Did it change how you were presenting the Primal Warpath character? Did you modify anything after his passing?
So I was so happy for him and for the WWE and for all the fans when he finally accepted to get inducted into the Hall of Fame, because his feelings were so hurt over the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD. For years after, they offered him the Hall of Fame and tried to extend the olive branch, and he's like, I don't want it. You've already done your damage. There's no making up for this. So whatever transpired that did lead to them mending fences and getting him in the Hall of Fame was absolutely beautiful. And again, what a rebirth for his character to have him on the TV commercials for the video game, all the merch deals that are still yielding dividends to this day of putting out new Ultimate Warrior t-shirts and action figures, etc. This is all still overflow from brokering that deal where they made up with each other, him and the WWE as an entity. So that's fantastic, because myself, you, and any Ultimate Warrior fans out there get to enjoy him right now, today in 2025, because of those deals that were made in 2013, where they did make up with each other. And then obviously that speech he gave on Monday Night Raw, like you said, it's chilling. Like, did he know that he was ill? He was sweating a lot and breathing hard during that weekend, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he knew he was going to pass away. He just might not have felt well. And he was, this was such an important historical and personal endeavor. He's making it through the weekend. But either way, to say the words that he said in that speech on Raw, about the time coming when a warrior breathes his last breath, and then to pass away basically the next day, easily within the next 48 hours, and seeming like such a huge, indestructible man. He was in such great, tremendous shape for those commercials and those merch deals. And I remember seeing an interview with his wife, Dana, and she said when he did collapse, next to the car on the sidewalk that she couldn't hold him up, that he just hit the ground with a thud. And it's very, very sad, that happened, and that she felt that way, so vulnerable. But it shows too what just a big man he was physically, like just so powerful. Like, how could this happen?
Yeah,
it inspired me to just keep going even harder and stronger with my character. Like, geez, when I thought he was never going to wrestle again, that's when I came up with a Primal Warpath character, so people could enjoy this experience of seeing a character like that with that kind of intensity and energy and gimmicks, in the ring. That's when he was alive and well, in 2000, thinking, well, he doesn't want to do this anymore. I do. And then for him to finally actually pass away in 2014, it actually seemed more important. Like, oh my God, there's definitely no turning back now.
Yeah, it was really sad on a number of levels, because he seemed to make peace, and he seemed to be in a good place, and he would have been one heck of an ambassador of positivity, ambassador for the company, and as well his own message. So it was tragic when anybody passes away at a young age, and then especially under those circumstances. I do agree with you. I think he may have had some inclination that he wasn't long for this world, and that's why I still watch that promo, and it's quite haunting, to say the least. But before I ask you a final question, I wanted to let the fans know this super cool aspect of your operation. Like the Warrior, you also have your own type of Warrior University that you built yourself, and it's from what I saw prior to us coming on the air, it's quite cool. I was wondering if you could maybe show some of your memorabilia and your gym.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to. And thanks for the opportunity to do so. And like my character, Primal Warpath, it's strictly to make other people happy and give them enjoyment, and sharing something that I enjoy and I'm passionate about, which is my humongous toy collection of wrestling action figures and rings and whatnot. And where I'm sitting right now is the first part of the building, I call it, which is my gym. The whole building itself is called Primal Clubhouse. So you had given the nod to Primal University. So my lair is Primal Clubhouse. It started as a 40 by 50 shell of a pole barn with just 4 metal walls and a roof. And like you mentioned, I learned on the fly, had some great friends giving me advice and showing me some tips here and there. But I built every wall and every ceiling and every stud in this building by myself to make rooms and hallways and ceilings. And it's to, my wife allows me to have it to store my massive wrestling collection. But when you first come in the door, this is my gym. I also go to like a Planet Fitness gym, but when I want to work out at home and get extra workouts in, or I don't feel like making the drive because it's too the weather's too bad where we live, this is where I could get some work done.
No, man, there's nothing like a home gym.
Yeah, it's great to have both. This is a picture that I kept referencing of when I started out and had really short hair. That's when I won the World of Hurt Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. Not from Texas Outlaw, because we had become friends, so the title had to change hands first. These are some Primal Warpath action figures. They're like the rubber LJN guys. They were actually made by Sin Bodhi, who wrestled as Kazarni in the WWE.
I was just going to say, I bet you he did them. He's extremely talented. I've interviewed him.
He's so talented, and he has a unique style to his work, too, that like an artist that he is, you could say, hey, that's a Sin Bodhi. This was fan-made. It's the shell of a hard-boiled egg that they made into a Primal Warpath. I thought that was really cool. It was this elderly couple, actually, when I was doing a show at a big fair, a big county fair in front of like 1,000 people. This beautiful elderly couple gave that to me.
That's awesome.
And we talked about my favorite Warrior moments. I hope I could get the lighting right to do this justice, but This is an Ultimate Warrior and Papa Shango 2-pack that came out last year, so I had to recreate the moment of the Curse of Papa Shango.
Oh man, that's cool. Mean Gene there too.
Yeah, Mean Gene. I have a little audience behind there. This particular shelf is some of the Warriors' greatest moments, in my opinion, or favorite, like that I just marked for. Here he is being attacked by Honky Tonk Man with a guitar, and Jimmy Hart's distracting him. Then when Macho Man Randy Savage smashed a scepter over his head when he was fighting Sergeant Slaughter for the title. And then another one that just had me in chills and tears as a child, when Undertaker locked him in the coffin on the funeral parlor.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great. Is that that's a 1980s Warrior jacket, correct?
Yeah, that's the actual one. It even has the WWF logo on it because it's, the OG.
Nice.
This was given to me by a good friend that's like a brother that was scored it at a yard sale or God knows what, but it was easily 20 years ago. And he goes, I know you'd want this.
Wow, that's
and
cool.
The jacket's obviously over 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Then also in my gym, just more Ultimate Warrior memorabilia and whatnot.
Where'd you get the life-size cutout?
My wife got that for me one of our first years together, and every story is a funny story in our house. So we got together in 2013, and I don't know if it was that year or the year after, but she got it for me for Christmas. And then after receiving it, I would hide it in different rooms on her, so she'd walk into the room, while I was at work and scare the hell out of herself because it would just be standing in some dark room. And I'd keep moving it around the house day after day just to prank her.
Any woman that supports your wrestling passion is a keeper.
Oh, yeah. She's definitely the one. I couldn't have a better wife. I really think God had chosen for us to be together and find each other. We had met at a show, ironically, that I was on. And not like she was my fan and wanted to get with me. She was dating a guy at the time, and his whole family would come to the shows. And obviously I'm performing. Well, the girl I was dating at the time was the brother of the guy she was dating. So over time, we both break up with those partners, and we had known each other, previously through them, and said, hey, why don't we give us a shot? So
cool.
Yeah, it was definitely fate and meant to be.
Bringing people together.
Yeah, it definitely did. In fact, I love this story too. One of those shows, again, where I'm dating this girl and my wife, Corey, was dating that girl's brother. Corey had our daughter, because she's my stepdaughter, but I call her my daughter too. Katie was 11 or 12 years old at the time. And they were at one of the shows, and after the show, I take pictures for hours with all the different fans and whoever. One of my phrases was, I'll stay here till the sun comes up tomorrow morning. I'm not leaving until every one of you that wants an autograph gets an autograph and a picture with me. And I, am blessed and grateful. I'd always have a long line, and I'd literally stay, as long as it took to meet everybody. But anyways, there's a picture of me standing with Katie. And again, just a fan at the time, I think the breakdown would have been at the time, my girlfriend's brother's girlfriend's daughter. You know what I mean? So awesome picture. I have my arm around her. Might have whispered to her, hey, your mom's good looking. No, I'm just joking. But anyways, that photo years later, it's choked me up because I'll share it on Facebook every year and say, I never knew when I had my picture taken with this beautiful young lady that I'd someday have the honor of calling her my daughter.
Nice.
And Katie, my stepdaughter, she's my ride or die. She's aggressively had my back through all the years. This is my collection of Hasbros. Sorry, the lighting isn't better. Still working on the building in some aspects. This entire hallway has my LJNs in it from when I was a kid, and I've replaced some through toy shops and flea markets, etc. through the years to keep them looking nice.
Wow, that's
and this entire hallway.
Tremendous collection of LJNs. Holy
Thanks.
cow.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And adjacent to the LGNs is this entire hallway is all SummerSlam matches. So that's the theme for this hallway. All SummerSlam.
Amazing.
Again, it's a little dark at the end because it's still a work in progress. And then it's a narrow hallway, but this wall, I hope I'm getting it. I'm just holding the phone out next to me. But this is like the wall of Hogan. Brock Lesnar and John Cena will be joining them as further down the hall as I continue work on this section. And then here's the next section of building. There's a front door. You first come in. I'm really into making moments and displays now too. Like I try to do a ring for every year in history, but here's Piper's Pit with Andre, challenging Hogan.
You're bleeding.
I'm bleeding?
No, when Piper ad-libbed the line after Andre ripped the cross off Hogan's chest and he reached down and said, "You're bleeding." That's iconic right there.
Yes. Like the funeral parlor with the Ultimate Warrior, that's one that got me really emotional when I was a child. This match here depicts when they were tag teaming against Big John Studd and King Kong Bundy. So I saw that match on Saturday night's main event, and then they used it on the intro for Saturday night's main event for several episodes in their opening music video. So that was burnt into my brain. And when Andre turned on him, it broke my heart, like for real, as a fan and as a kid. I was like, oh, how could this be happening? This was inspired by a buddy. He requested that I did this scene. It's when Macho Man Randy Savage got the guitar smashed over his head by Honky Tonk Man, and the Heart Foundation was holding his arms. Elizabeth looked like she was retreating. Yes, but she came back with Hogan to help.
Yes.
This is when Mr. Perfect had enough of Bobby the Brain Heenan's crap, and I handmade the Primetime Wrestling set.
Oh, dude, that's great.
The Ultimate Warrior playing mind games with Andre the Giant on the Brother Love show. But now I hope I don't give anyone motion sickness. I want to take a look at another section of the building. These are all early Raws and SmackDowns. I try to keep era-specific attires and whatnot. They really go around the whole building annually. I try to have a ring for every single year. Here's one for the ECW fans.
Oh, nice. Oh,
that's more moments and eras.
That's an original ECW logo there too, correct?
Yeah, it came off one of the figures back in the day from Jax when they did the ECW line. So luckily I saved one of the little cards to hook it to a ring. But a lot of people get a kick out of this display I made recently, the bedpan incident with Stone Cold and Vince McMahon.
Yes.
Then the grocery store match with
Booker T
and Stone Cold. And then the moment that started it all, the birth of 316 when Austin won the King of the Ring.
Wow.
And then this is my modern Raw. On the other side of this wall, mirroring it, is a modern SmackDown where I could change a little locker room area I put together.
Cool.
And then this entire room is just WrestleManias. I call it the WrestleMania room, but they literally go 1 through 41, starting here with WrestleMania 1 and then 2, and you could go clockwise around the entire room for every single WrestleMania.
Wow, that's incredible. You've probably got the most ornate and extensive collection I think I've ever seen. I know the individual who set this interview up, Jake Walker, would be impressed. He's a memorabilia guy, but I've never seen anything like that. That's impressive.
Well, if you guys are ever up for a road trip, come visit, because now, again, that I'm retired from my job in law enforcement, I'm putting a lot more time and effort into this building and the displays that I didn't previously have, along with still working out and doing the indies and taking care of my family. They're my number one love and priority. But I would love for people to come over and visit and give them tours of this, because, like I said, I treat it almost like a museum.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't know if he'll end up seeing this, but Matt Cardona, I know you and Brian Myers are huge figure guys too. My son is 9 years old now, but from the time he was a 2-year-old baby, we would watch your YouTube show every week, going out collecting figures and whatnot. And I just told a buddy the other day, I'm like, man, you know, if any other wrestler I could meet or get to know or hang out with, it's my bucket list moment to have Matt and Brian come and see my collection and check my building out.
Well, we'll definitely tag them on the video, and they seem to be quite responsive to that stuff. I want to thank you for showing us that. Wanted to ask you one last question that I think is pretty poignant, given the fact that you've carved out such a legacy yourself through the Primal Warpath character. Where do you see, now you mentioned you're retired, you have more time, where do you see yourself going in the future? Because at the end of the day, you put a lot of smiles on a lot of people's faces, and you've got this great message of positivity that I don't think ever there won't be a place in the business for.
Well, there's a few different things, that are my current passions and aspirations, especially when it comes to pro wrestling. I'm still in the gym pretty much every day. Still trying to stay in as peak physical shape and condition as I can. I have a home fed, which, some people use that term in the indies. It's Nickel City Wrestling in Buffalo, New York. My buddy Steven Stroh runs that, and I put a lot of my heart and soul into helping him. Whatever I can do to help, Nickel City be a great promotion. And we do put on killer shows. But again, I'm free every single day, so I wouldn't mind in this character to inspire and entertain families everywhere. So anybody that's interested, just hit me on Facebook on private messenger, either Dave Koya Jr. or on my Primal Warpath page. But I'm available, and I absolutely love doing this. Also, it would probably be a story for a whole nother episode, but it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm so grateful. There's a Primal Warpath movie in the works. It's already been professionally written. We're just waiting for funding for it. Well, not waiting. We're searching for funding for it, because that's the most difficult part in making a movie. But the screenplay is absolutely awesome. Ironically, Primal Warpath isn't a wrestler in the movie. He's an archangel during the Rapture and Apocalypse. So it takes the character, but just puts him into a sci-fi horror action story. But the screenplay is absolutely incredible. I had a great, I really enjoyed writing it. And then a real pro friend of mine, who actually is a professor of screenplay writing, is the one that did additional content and edited for me. So the screenplay is 100% professional. It's finished and ready to go. It's a killer original story. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what that can do.
Well, Dave, before, I want to thank you for your time today. We're definitely going to keep in touch. But before we wrap up one last time, where can the fans find you on your socials or otherwise?
The best place currently for me is on my Facebook page. It's Primal Warpath. My YouTube channel, I'm trying to grow with subscribers. So if you would, please subscribe to that. It's Primal Warpath TV, just the letters T and V at the end. Primal Warpath TV. Again, my Facebook page, Primal Warpath, and Nickel City Wrestling, also on Facebook.
Tremendous. Well, I've really enjoyed this. Once again, Dave, thank you very much for your time. We'll keep in touch. And fans, I encourage you to check out Primal Warpath's socials, support him. Great guy, clear love of the business, in it as a passion project, clearly, and a really positive guy who, again, puts a lot of smiles on faces, and that's what it's all about. But this is the wrap up of this edition of the Cheap Heat Productions podcast. I'm Jack Kilby for the Primal Warpath. Dave, thanks for watching. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at